Well, Mount SAC does work closely with our business community in taking a look at not only what new programs we should offer, grants we should pursue, but also staying current in our course offerings and in our skill outcomes. We have, for every one of our vocational advisory committees, we have members of the public, particularly those who work in the profession for which we're training our students, to give us advice on a regular basis on the program, the courses, the skill outcomes. And it's a great partnership because it also can lead to things like internships that can lead directly to work. We've been using that connection quite a bit this year as we've had to scale back our course offerings because of decline in state funding. We've looked more closely at the courses that were not part of programs, bringing them into programs, in some cases creating new certificates, following student patterns of training and employment. We've looked more closely at the high unit programs to see if all those courses are needed. And in some cases where we see students kind of jobbing out, that is leaving a program before finishing it, we've taken a look at and talked to employers about are there job opportunities in a laddered way that we can have our certificates reflect that. So I think that's been an important part of what we've done to both deal with the current job situation and the shortage of resources. Well, I think that there's always a challenge in managing your CTE offerings to cover a wide range of occupational niches within a given program, but at the same time be specific enough so that those who finish the program have as close to possible of the full range of skills for a particular job. So I think that in the first case, you want to structure your program so that there's a core of skills that are associated with that occupation, but options that students can pursue to get more specific. In doing that, I think, again, as related to the first issue, you have to work closely with industry to be sure that you're aligned with those skills. I think also to take a close look at labor market data so you can see how occupations are shifting, new job opportunities are emerging, some are tailing off, so you can make adjustments even on a year-to-year basis with the structure of the program and the selection of course offerings. We're just about to move at Mount SAC to a system of following our students more closely into the workplace to see whether or not the training is working well with the jobs, doing some interviews with both former students and with employers. I think that is an important tool in managing this CTE offerings to be sure that not only your advisory committee, but also those that are directly hiring students and the students themselves give you good feedback on whether your program is the way it should be or not. We've, over the last year at Mount SAC, pretty much gone through our curriculum top to bottom with a review, driven by both the restricted resources and by the need to focus on occupations that really people are going to get jobs. And in doing that, we've had that be a very faculty-driven process. So I think you can't do something like that top down. It has to be a good dialogue between the faculty in the program, the students, and the employers so that the outcomes that emerge really get buy-in from everyone. The job, I think, of the CEO is to be sure that that kind of review is structured, it's balanced, it's fair, and that the outcomes in some cases need more resources, not fewer resources. So our principle here is that review is not designed to save money, but rather to focus resources where they can make the most impact. Well, basic skills leading into CTE occupational programs is a distinct animal from basic skills in the academic sense. I think there's some foundational skills, certainly in traditional basic skills. There's a certain level of literacy and numeracy that all students need to have. But I think it's a little bit different in CTE in that the traditional kind of algebra approach to math or the expository writing approach to English isn't spot on for the skills that are needed in CTE programs. I guess the one word that describes the distinction is applied. It's the context that you're talking about in that question really is related to applying the literacy and numeracy skills to the occupation that the person is training in. One of the best tools for that, I think, is a diagnostic system called Work Keys that's produced by ACT. It is a series of assessments. There's 8 altogether, one of which is applied math, another one is reading for understanding, that I think are very germane to the basic skills issues in CTE. Other states and some regions of California have used Work Keys very well for both assessment and for designing curriculum around contextualized basic skills for CTE. It's a trend that's just within CTE disciplines right now. The English and math faculty haven't been connected with programs like this, but where they've been tried, I think they've been successful. So I think it's contextualized learning and basic skills for CTE is a combination of foundational skills in fundamental techniques in reading, writing, and math, but in applied skills that are specific to the occupation that are often taught inside the occupation rather than in traditional basic skills disciplines. Well, the state has a lot of different ways of approaching workforce training, both on a regional and a statewide basis. And I think that's both an advantage and a challenge. From my standpoint of working in community colleges, I think that the various ways that the state provides resources for workforce training that is not well coordinated. So I think that's the one thing the state could do would be to do more coordination among the various pathways of providing resources for CTE training. The Employment Development Department does workforce training, but it has typically short-term outcomes. Workforce investment boards have certain resources coming from federal funding that tend to be sporadic, and the Employment Training Panel provides other resources that are focused on reimbursing industries. But these systems don't work well together, and we as community colleges in our vocational training struggle to bring partners to the table and combine those resources in a coherent way. So I think the one thing that the state could do that would have the most impact, not just on our region, but on the state as a whole, is to have a better coordinated delivery system. There are 3 aspects of that really. One is that the funds have different accountability requirements. So when you accept the funds, the results that you are to produce are not well aligned among the various resource systems that the state has. Secondly, the student audience is not the same, the type of people we're serving. Oftentimes it's displaced workers or homemakers or foster youth. And that tends to fraction the programs instead of enabling them to collaborate. I think finally that one of the aspects of these more narrowly defined programs is that more money tends to be funneled into some areas than others, so there's not a level playing field. There's gaps. There's certain segments of the population or industries that don't receive the kind of funding that's necessary to provide the educated workforce in that area. So what California really needs is a coordination, collaboration, partnership on the delivery of state resources for workforce training. Well, I think this initiative has a couple of aspects that are valuable to to Mount SAC at Mount San Antonio College. One of the hallmarks of the initiative is regional collaboration. And certainly for community colleges, our focus is serving the broad area from which we draw students. So to have better data that's organized in a regional labor market methodology, to have partnerships among those who are representatives of these state funding programs that are at the table, and to have conversations among regions where labor markets extend beyond just a region. I think these are all good approaches. The regional basis of this Doing What Matters initiative is a good one for Mount SAC, and I think most regions will find it so. I'm very hopeful again that this initiative will lead to the number one need of California, and that is for these various groups to partner well together. Workforce investment boards, for example, I've worked in various parts of the state, and I can tell you that in some areas, workforce investment boards are very collaborative, and community colleges are quite involved, and I believe that leads to more effective workforce training and economic development in those areas. Other areas, not so much, and I think that's a loss for the state. So if there can be a statewide initiative that brings more regional focus to collaboration, that would certainly be a real positive. So I think that'll work well for us. Data is another positive outcome I think of this initiative. To have the data more focused on the regions that each community college serves gives us the ability to be more responsive to changes in the workforce demands. It enables us to have a better dialogue with employers in the region, and data is just what makes decisions more well-informed, and in a time of limited resources, we can't afford to trial and error. We need good data to help us make good decisions. Well, I think the thing that we could add to our work that we haven't done much on is what I would call environmental scanning, to be looking at a wider set of information beyond our traditional sources of information. Right now I'm just doing that by happening to talk to people to find out that, oh, hey, you know, the food processing industry is growing right now, and the warehousing system is becoming more computerized. So I just don't have an organized way of getting out there and checking on what's happening currently. A lot of those nuances don't appear in the labor market information, or the lag time on the labor market information doesn't pick those up. So we're looking at doing that in our strategic planning, of having more structured environmental scanning to pick up local trends or niche trends that are happening in the market like this, where that can make a difference between getting a job and not getting a job. I think we need to devote efforts to collecting that kind of information.